Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here.
Doug here. Hello.
Stop it. Mick, I've had an epiphany.
Okay.
What I wanted to do today is show you guys basically how to set up your overdrive and distortion. Because I hear this all the time and it drives me crazy.
And you no longer have to imagine you've got a bass player and a drummer.
No, indeed. Check this out.
We've got a drummer and a guitar player masquerading as a bass player, which we'll do for today, right?
Yeah. Fantastic. Yes. So thank you so much, Dougie. Legend.
My pleasure.
All right. And it's really important to get the drums and bass with this so that you can hear this in context. What I wanted to do is show you a really great way to approach using your gain. So I started that off using the RAT, and that sound that I had then, all right, so this is just the guitar. It's okay. It's massive. But if I try and do anything not massive, right? So just I'm just going to play some stuff over that breakdown E bit for me.
Right.
Okay, so just go into that. So out of interest, what were you hearing there?
I was just enjoying slapping the bass.
Okay, very good. For me,
No dynamic.
there's no dynamic at all.
Everything's one level. I can't hear the pick on the edge of the strings.
Yep.
It's
And
all
I am
just-
playing, I am trying to do approach it dynamically. So you can see on the RAT, I've got the gain cranked.
Yeah.
Right. And I hear this all the time, and I can't hear the guitar anymore. All I'm hearing is the RAT. And I could plug anything into that and it would sound just like that. And there's this misconception that for me to have that really big, that big wall of noise that I had at the going into that riff,
Yeah.
that I've got to have the gain cranked,
Okay.
right? What I'm going to do, we're going to play the same riff, and then we're going to go back into that sort of breakdown section, but I'm going to turn the gain down to a point where I can hear the guitar. Okay, so, and the way I do that, the way that I've worked out how to do it, if I play all the open strings, and you get all the harmonics going, into a distortion pedal, it'll just sound like noise, and you hear all this fizz. And I'll turn the distortion down until that fizz basically goes away.
Okay.
Right, so check this out. Because I've turned the distortion down, I've got to adjust the level a little bit.
The level up a bit, yeah.
Just a little bit.
So I'm just turning the reverb.
Okay. As opposed to The other really important thing is have a listen to what happens to the top end
Yeah,
when I turn the gain down.
I noticed your top string there, not least because it's ever so slightly out of tune, Daniel, but I really noticed it. Really noticed how much it was ringing top end.
Right.
So your top ends come back, right? Because you
top
turn
end's
the gain down.
Exactly that. So
Okay.
So I've halved the gain. All right. So let's do that riff again, and then go back into that E breakdown section, and we'll
Okay.
bring it right back. Okay. So.
Nice.
So, what is really interesting is you think by turning the distortion down, you think, oh, you're going to lose all that fatness and massiveness when you go into the riff, but you don't, because you've got dynamics. So when I lean into the riff, it's actually louder.
It was louder, and what I was hearing was I could hear your telly again.
Right.
I could hear that it was red.
Yeah.
I'm really used to hearing the guitar week in, week out, and I know what it sounds like. And there was some chewiness, some mid-range chewiness that came back. I think you played on the neck pickup for a second there.
Yep.
And I could hear that, which was completely gone with all the extra mush.
Yeah.
And the clarity of the notes, certainly your inflection. So anything you do with the side of the pick or the way in which you strike the string, I could hear.
Yeah.
Even though I'm concentrating on slapping the bass. It was...
But it's one of those things that I think when we buy our first distortion pedal, right? And you know, we've learned to play some chords with a clean guitar sound, and we stick on some distortion, and it's this massive, it's a really big change, right? It's like having an extra channel on your amplifier.
Mm.
And one of the things that we sort of instinctively do is crank that gain up for a couple of reasons. One, it's really fun, but two, it actually makes it, if you're learning to do legato and that sort of stuff, it makes it really easy to play. Well, easier because it evens everything out.
Yeah.
Right. So if I was to turn the distortion all the way back up again.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to play a legato thing. Right. Legato is not my forte, but you get an idea what I'm talking about. So it evens out all the notes. And it doesn't sound great because A, it's not played well, but...
I thought Alan Holdsworth had come in for a minute there, yeah.
Right.
May he rest in peace.
So what happens now...
I can also hear the acoustic...
ringing away. I can hear the snare drum.
Yeah.
But what happens now, if I turn that gain back down to where we were, right? So...
God, thank goodness for that.
Right, the ocean's gone. And if I do something similar,
Yeah.
right?
That sounded like more like Paul Gilbert.
Right.
Because you could hear the edge of the note.
You can hear the end of the note.
Yeah.
Because everything
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
just... So even though the loads of gain, it feels really fun to play, but one thing about turning the gain down, because you can hear the edge of the note, it actually makes you a better guitar player.
Yeah, right.
Because you'll hear yourself and you'll hear the mistakes and you'll correct yourself.
Yeah, you've got to check that.
You really do. But when you have loads of gain on there, I mean, it's fun and you can get away with bloody murder. But yeah, one of the things I just hear it so often where there's a sound that I'm sure loads of people have heard. It's like, well, you can't define who the guitar player is or what they're using. It's just tones and tones. It's just gain and gain and gain.
It always happens to me when we dish out all this advice every week on TPS and trying to help you, sound better and enjoy playing your guitar more. And actually, I'm as guilty of it as anyone else. I'll turn up to a gig and I'll be a bit nervous,
right,
that I've got enough gain for the sustain. I'll turn my next gain pedal off,
right,
on, and all the sound goes away.
Sure. And
it's exactly that. It's just too much.
It's too much. So, and that's one of the things. So a lot of people who go from, they'll have all the gain on and they'll be rehearsing at home and they get to the gig or with the band and they'll stick on that distortion pedal that at home had loads of, it sounded big and fat. And as soon as it gets in the mix of the band, it all goes. Because, we found it today as we're setting up to jam. It's like, when everyone gets a bit excited, everything lifts, and when you have so much gain on, you simply put a ceiling on your dynamics.
Yeah.
You can dig in as much as you like, but it's not going anywhere. So have a listen to some, really amazing rock players, Eddie Van Halen and the Slash and, and have listened to actually how much gain they use. The guys who are really dynamic. And someone actually texted the other night. They said they went and saw Slash playing live. And they said his sound was almost clean. Slash clean.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's so much dynamic in what he does. And if you put on a whole load of gain with that, all that would go away.
Should we try and repeat it with the Riot?
Yeah, so repeat it with the Riot.
We've heard the RAT, so that's, RAT's very famous distortion pedal. Riot, perhaps, shall we say, has a slightly more modern sound to it?
Yeah.
See if the same process works.
Sure. All right. Distortion all the way up on the Riot. If anything, more so.
Awful.
Right?
Horrible mess.
It is. Anything that I want to, any sort of inflection I want to use, it's just, I can't because everything's sort of so squashed. So I'll do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to turn the gain down. Go again. a very much similar experience. But what I find really interesting, even though the second time my sound was quieter, because I had somewhere to go, I could dig in and it would just lift.
Yeah, I don't think you might be watching this thinking, well, he's just putting that on, but there's so much more feedback, and I don't mean harmonic feedback, I mean feedback of harmonics and music coming through the rig there, that it's making you play better. It's making you engage more with less gain because you're feeling it more. It's
chalk and day. Now, the other thing I just want to really quickly touch on is we were saying before about how the tone control changed. And I think a lot of people have a lot of confusion about where to set the tone control.
Right.
And there's a couple of things that we can do that I think they're really interesting. If I play just with a clean sound, and we have a listen to the top end, right? Now, if I turn the tone control to match that top end, what's really interesting is the tone will be in a different position depending on the level of not just the gain, but the overall level of the distortion.
Yeah, right.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the distortion down quite low.
Yeah.
And I'm going to turn the treble up until that treble frequency, the level of that treble frequency matches the treble frequency in my clean sound.
Okay.
Okay, so check this out. So I'll turn the treble up and the level down. Those treble frequencies, sort of roughly a similar volume.
Yeah, it's almost impossible though, isn't it? Because they're getting distorted.
They are. But check this out, right? So, right, just go through the riff once for me. 3, 4.
I need a minute.
Sorry. 3 and 4. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the tone right down, and I'm going to turn the level up until I can hear the same treble frequencies
okay.
at the same level.
I know where this is going.
Right? So check this out. So turn right down. Okay, same thing. 3. So I can get a big fat sound, and it's like normally you'd look at the way the tone control there is set and you go, no way, that's never going to work. Instead of thinking about trying to make your distortion sound the same as your clean sound but more distorted, if you think about just where the treble frequency sit and whether you want a thinner sound or whether you want a big fat sound, a really great way to make them work with the clean sound is just, okay, if you want a big fat sound, turn the tone down, but then turn the level up until you can hear those treble frequencies.
Yeah.
Match the same frequencies as the guitar.
That is the point where all your bandmates turn to you and go, I don't think so, mate. Because you've got so much more bottom end and it's louder and perceivably louder.
Sure. So then you find that space in the middle, but it's a really great way to work out where you want to set your tone control. There's quite a range. It's not one position that's going to suit everything. It depends on how fat you want it to be. You might want that really piercing, shrill thing.
Yeah.
And in that case, just turn it up until the levels are similar.
Yeah.
Because what happens then, if you've got dynamic in your overdrive sound, you can go from, so what I'm going to do now, I just want you to play that E riff, and I'm going to go from clean, and then I'm going to turn the pedal on, all right, and have a listen to what happens. So if you, yeah, this is play the. Cool. Just do that one more time, okay? I've turned the distortion down a bit. I've turned the tone up a little bit. But this is, setting at the amount of girth that I want the sound to have.
Yep.
And then you can do this sort of stuff with it, which I think is really cool. So let's just do that section in E. So instead of having a distortion pedal that becomes like on distortion, I can actually just make it more of a dynamic change using the volume control, between the clean sound, and then sort of let it build.
Nice.
It's a really great way to think about the way that where the tone control sits.
What I want you to do now is we'll whip through both pedals again.
Okay.
I want you to change guitar.
Yep.
And do exactly what you've just done.
Okay.
On a humbucker guitar.
Okay.
There's a couple here if you want to play any of these, or your Les Pauls out there.
Is the gold top there?
The gold top's there. I don't know how tuny it is.
So, because it's a really important point, right? Everyone, when we think in terms of gain stages,
yeah,
everyone thinks of this and then this.
Looks good on you, mate.
Thank you very much. This is the first gain stage.
Yeah.
What's coming out of red is going to be vastly different than what's coming out of here. But even if it's not vastly different, it only has to be a small change to make a big difference here.
Right.
So there's no hard and fast rule. You've got to use your ears and then find that point where you still have dynamic. So let's go back to the RAT then. Actually, let's hear this clean first. Far out, man. This is the best Les Paul I've ever heard.
Me too.
Okay, so do the same thing with the RAT. Okay, so start with the distortion all the way up.
Woo!
And it's not that that's not a cool sound. It definitely has its moments. But if I couldn't use that all night,
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean? So. There or thereabouts.
1, 2.
So if we have a look at where the RAT is set compared to what it was with the Tele,
Yeah, right.
it's really different. But I'm still able to get, you know, dynamic. Dynamics are a very different story with humbuckers anyway. But I still had somewhere to go, you know.
Riot?
Right. Okay. Just do the E thing.
Dynamics.
Dynamics.
Dynamics. And in each case, the gain on those pedals is down.
Yeah.
And I don't think we were lacking in overdrive.
No.
You
not at
heard
all.
the clean sound of the amps. It's not like the amps are overdriving significantly. And of course, if your amps are overdriving, which is a whole other part of this debate, even less gain
Yep.
from the pedal.
Getting that right is even more important.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, just take 10 minutes to sit down and, you know, if you're at a point of this journey where you want to get some more dynamics into your playing and get more expressive, turn the gain down. Just turn the gain down and just experiment with those, you know, those different levels. Experiment where the tone control goes.
It reminds me of the early days of memes on Facebook and Instagram, where it was like, the gain is not a volume control, Kyle.
Carl,
yeah.
What did you do? I turned the gain all the way up. The gain's not a volume control, Carl. So good. So there you go.
There you go. Very interesting. Dougie, thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Nice to hear
yeah.
you bashing the tubs there. It's good to hear our drum kit sounding so nice. Really pleased with that. So,
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
nice. Good.
Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Also, a massive thank you to anyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and grabbed t-shirts. We've got some new shirts in stock. See, Dougie is modelling it. Lovely. Also, massive thank you to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is...
Anderson's Music of Guildford in Surrey.
And our friends in Australia.
Would be Pedal Empire of Brisbane, Queensland.
And also, there are some links in the description below.
There are indeed. If you go to those links and buy stuff, Dan and I get a kickback off that in the USA, and it helps us greatly fund this show.
Indeed.
Make sure Dougie doesn't have to work for nothing, you know, those kind of things.
Indeed. Also, massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you
We
so
really
much.
appreciate your support. Fantastic. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.